Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to tackle a huge paradox that's right at the heart of India's economy. Why are so many educated young people finding it harder and harder to get a job? We're going to break down why the old job market is broken, and more importantly, where the real opportunities are today, based on some killer insights from entrepreneur Varun Lamaye.
So let's just dive right in with a quote that sounds, well, completely backward, right? The more you study, the more unemployed you are. It sounds insane, but it actually nails the bizarre reality of the job market in India right now. You know, the old rules just don't work anymore, and the data, well, the data proves it.
All right, check this out. For people in India who don't have a formal degree, the unemployment rate is only 3%. On the surface, you'd think, wow, that's pretty good.
But what happens when you do get that degree? That number doesn't just go up a little bit, it skyrockets to 30%. That's 10 times higher. All of a sudden, the very thing that was supposed to be your ticket to a great career starts to look like a problem.
Okay, but here's the number that should really make you pause. For graduates from the IITs, India's most elite engineering colleges, the unemployment rate in 2024 hit 40%. Let that sink in for a second. The best of the best. So what on earth is going on? Let's unpack this whole thing.
So the root of the problem is this massive disconnect. You have our education system just pumping out graduates, but it's for an economy that's completely changed. It's like the gears aren't meshing at all, and the numbers, they tell a pretty scary story.
Think about this. Every single year, India's universities produce about 9 million new graduates, okay? 9 million. But at the same time, the economy is only creating 1 million new white-collar jobs. I mean, you can do the math, right? That's 9 qualified people fighting for every single job opening. The supply is just overwhelming the demand.
So where are these few jobs even coming from? Well, a huge chunk, 40%, are from what we call GCCs. Those are the big Indian tech hubs for multinational companies. But here's the part you really got to pay attention to: startups. At 15%, they're already creating just as many new jobs as the entire IT services sector. That is a massive signal for where things are headed.
But here's the kicker. There's a ticking time bomb under a lot of these jobs. So many of them are these low-skill, repetitive roles that are, let's be honest, perfect targets for AI to take over. So that old, safe path, get a degree, land a stable corporate job, it's not just getting more crowded, it's literally starting to vanish.
Okay, so if the old roads are all dead ends, what's the answer? Well, it's not about trying to fight harder for fewer spots in a system that's shrinking. It's about building the new system. The future really does belong to the builders.
And this is a really fundamental shift in how the whole economy works. See, the old model was a handful of giant companies hiring thousands of people. The new model? It's thousands of small companies, each hiring just a handful of people. And this isn't just some abstract economic trend, it's personal. It means the most valuable skill you can have isn't being a good employee anymore. It's learning how to think like a founder.
And this is exactly why startups have such a huge advantage. It comes down to this classic business idea called the innovator's dilemma. Basically, big successful companies get stuck. They have this profitable thing they're doing, and any really disruptive new idea threatens to mess that up. So they're built to protect what they have, not to invent what's next.
I mean, the classic example of this is Blockbuster, right? Back in 2000, this little struggling company called Netflix offered to sell itself to them for $50 million. And Blockbuster pretty much laughed them out of the room. Why? Because Blockbuster's entire business model was built on charging people late fees. And that's the very thing Netflix wanted to get rid of. They couldn't bring themselves to kill their own cash cow. And well, a decade later, Blockbuster was bankrupt. Startups don't have a cash cow to protect. Not having that baggage is their superpower.
Now, this might all sound a bit intimidating, but here's the really good news. You don't need a fancy degree from an IIT or an MBA to win in this new game. The skills you need to build something new are practical, they're tangible, and best of all, you can learn them. So let's break down what that essential skill set looks like.
Forget about those huge, complicated business plans. It really just boils down to 5 concrete skills. First, you have to pick the right problem. That means falling in love with a customer's pain, not with your cool idea. Then you've got to understand the business math to make sure it can actually be a business. And this one is key. You have to launch in 2 weeks. Get something out there fast. And once it's out, you've got to be constantly talking to customers and letting them guide you. And finally, you have to master distribution. How are you actually going to get your product to people? That's the playbook right there.
And let's just hammer home that first point, because it is everything.
The number one reason startups die isn't because of bad code or running out of money. It's because they build something beautiful that solves a problem nobody actually has. You have to get obsessed with a real, painful customer problem, not just with your own clever solution.
The name of the game here is speed and learning. Your goal should be to get a super basic version of your idea, a minimum viable product, out into the world and in front of real people as fast and as cheap as you can. You don't spend months perfecting it, you just build enough to see if anyone even cares. And their feedback, what they love, what they hate, what they'd actually pay for, that is the most valuable thing you can get.
But you can have all these skills, and it won't matter without one last thing that's maybe even more important. A shift in your mindset. It's about moving from being a job seeker to being a value creator. It's that core belief that you don't need anyone's permission to start building something. And a shift in mindset like that can literally reshape an entire economy. I mean, look at Silicon Valley. In the 1930s, it was mostly just fruit farms. But there was this professor at Stanford named Frederick Terman, and he was so frustrated that all his best engineering students would just leave for the East Coast. So he created a new culture. He pushed them to stay and start their own companies. And two of his first students, Bill Hewlett and David Packard, their little company, HP, started this flywheel effect that just attracted more talent, more money, and eventually turned a farming valley into the tech capital of the entire world. And this all leads us to maybe the most powerful, most liberating idea of all for anyone who wants to build something today. Nobody knows what will work. Not the experts, not the venture capitalists, not the CEOs of those giant companies. Everybody is just figuring it out as they go. The playing field has been totally leveled. Your unique experience, your perspective, and just your willingness to try stuff, that's your biggest asset now.
So yeah, the old predictable career paths might be crumbling, but that's not a crisis, it's an invitation. It's an invitation to go and build the new paths. The opportunity is out there for anyone who's willing to find a problem they care about and just take that first tiny step to try and solve it. Your experience is your advantage. So the only real question left is, what are you going to build?